Norse mythology, Ragnarök is the end of the world, the final battle between the gods and the forces of chaos. We often imagine it as a clash fought on the battlefield. But the beginning of this story lies somewhere else entirely. Many years before the end of time, in the distant lands of Jötunheim, those who would play a key role in the downfall of the gods were born. They didn't arrive with weapons in hand. They were children, beings the Aesir deemed dangerous, and they were all descendants of one figure. His name was Loki. Loki was not quite a god and not quite a giant. He was an ally of the Aesir, lived among them, joined them on their quests. But he was always an outsider. His nature, clever, unpredictable, and sharp-tongued, earned more suspicion than trust from the other gods. And it was Loki who became the father of those the Aesir would call monsters. His children weren't merely strange, they were symbols of the end. The wolf named Fenrir, the serpent Jörmungandr, and Hel, the ruler of the dead. In this episode, we'll tell the story of how Loki became the father of Ragnarök, who his children were, why the gods feared them, and how their fates became entwined with the prophecy of the world's end. In the pantheon of Norse gods, Loki holds a special place. He was not born an Aesir, but he lived among them, took part in their affairs, formed alliances with them, and broke them just as easily. His father was the giant Farbauti, whose name can be translated as fierce striker. His mother was Laufey, of whom little is known, though she is often described as the one who brings warmth, or the igniter. She may have been a goddess, or a giantess. The sources don't say for sure. Either way, Loki was born between worlds, and never truly belonged to any of them. His name has many interpretations. The most common is knot or loop. In some rune lore, it is understood as the closer, the breaker, or the entangler. This reflects Loki's very nature. He ties things together, but also breaks them apart. He connects the gods to the giants, and also brings them ruin. Loki was known for his beauty, wit, and cleverness. He was a master shapeshifter. He could become a woman, an old man, a bird, a salmon, even a mare. In fact, he fathered Odin's eight-legged steed, Gleipnir, after turning into a mare and giving birth to the foal. He was a friend to Odin. Some sagas call them blood brothers, bound by a sacred oath. He was seen as nearly a member of the divine family. He was a frequent companion of Thor on journeys, participated in feasts and councils, and even helped save Asgard on occasion. His role in Norse mythology is unique. He is not just a trickster in the sense found in other cultures. He is not merely a jester or a rule breaker. He is a test. Through Loki, the world of the gods is challenged. Through Loki, the gods are forced to change. But with each test, the danger becomes greater. Loki embodies duality. He saves and he destroys. He laughs, but mostly alone. He is capable of loyalty, and at the same time, is the father of monsters. His children with the giantess Angrboda would become the greatest enemies of the gods, and Loki himself would eventually side with the forces of chaos. Loki is not a villain in the modern sense. He is a force the gods tried to control, but ultimately rejected. And when they rejected him, Loki turned away from them. Loki had two wives, and each of them represented different aspects of his life and nature. The first was the goddess Sigyn. Her name is often translated as victory in battle, but in the myths, she is best known as a symbol of loyalty and endurance. She and Loki had two sons, Nari, and Vali. Their fate was tragic. After Loki was found guilty of causing the death of Baldr, the Aesir captured him and decided to punish him. One of his sons was turned into a wolf, and that wolf tore his brother apart. From the brother's entrails, the gods made bonds to tie Loki down. Sigyn stayed by his side. According to the myth, she held a bowl over his face to catch the venom dripping from a serpent suspended above him. Whenever she had to step away to empty the bowl, the poison would fall on Loki's face, and his agonizing convulsions would shake the earth. This, the myth said, was the cause of earthquakes. Loki's second wife was the giantess Angrboda. Her name means she who brings grief. She lived in the Iron Forest, in the east of Jötunheim, a place of monsters and witches. With her, Loki fathered 3 beings who play a central role in the prophecy of Ragnarök. Fenrir, the wolf destined to kill Odin. Jörmungandr, the world's serpent, who will face Thor in a fatal battle. And Hel, the ruler of the realm of the dead, who governs those who died of illness or old age. Thus, the children of his first wife are tied to Loki's personal tragedy and punishment, while the children of his second wife are tied to the fate of the entire world. Sigyn represents loyalty and human compassion. Angrboda, chaos and the omen of the end. Loki's 2 wives reflect his dual nature. On one hand, he is the father of ordinary children. On the other, the progenitor of monsters who will bring about the world's destruction. Loki and Angrboda became the parents of 3 beings that even the Aesir themselves called monsters. Prophecies spoke of them, and each prophecy foretold disaster. When the gods learned of the birth of these children, Odin ordered them to be brought before him. But instead of raising them nearby or destroying them, the Aesir chose to separate them, tearing them from their family and home. Fenrir, the wolf. He was born as an ordinary wolf cub, but his size and strength frightened even the gods. With each passing day, he grew larger, and only Tyr, the god of war and honor, dared approach him and feed him. The Aesir could not bring themselves to kill Fenrir. After all, he was the son of Loki, their ally. But the prophecies were clear. One day, this wolf would kill Odin, so they decided to bind him. First, they forged a chain called Loading, which Fenrir easily broke. Then they made a second chain, Dromi, twice as strong. He shattered it as well. Finally, they turned to the dwarves, who forged a third binding. Gleipnir, a thin ribbon woven from impossible ingredients. The sound of a cat's footstep, a woman's beard, mountain roots, bear sinews, fish breath, and bird spit. It looked like silk, but held the strength of iron. Fenrir refused to be bound by something so delicate unless one of the gods placed a hand in his mouth as a sign of good faith. Only Tyr stepped forward, knowing full well what it would cost him. When the gods tightened the ribbon, Fenrir struggled, but the more he fought, the stronger the bonds held. Realizing he had been tricked, the wolf bit off Tyr's hand. Since then, Fenrir has been chained. But the myths say he will break free on the day of the end and fulfill his fate, devouring Odin. Jörmungandr, the world's serpent. The Aesir cast him into the ocean that surrounds the world of men. There he grew until he became so vast that he encircled all of Midgard, biting his own tail. He became a symbol of the eternal cycle, the boundary between the world of humans and the chaos of the sea. His sworn enemy is Thor. In one tale, Thor tried to catch him with a fishing line baited with an ox's head. He managed to pull the serpent from the depths, but their battle was interrupted. It was only a glimpse of what was to come. In Ragnarök, Thor will slay Jörmungandr, but will take only 9 steps before falling dead, poisoned by the serpent's breath. Hel. The third child was a daughter. Her body was half alive, half dead, one side pink and human, the other blue and corpse-like. Odin banished her to Niflheim and gave her dominion over the realm of the dead. There she built her hall, dark and grim. Her palace was called Sleet, her plate Hunger, her knife Famine, and her bed Sickbed. Her servants were named Sloth and Drowsy. Her realm received all who died not in battle, but from sickness, old age, or misfortune. For the Vikings, this was considered a shameful death. Yet Hel's domain gave refuge to those who were not chosen for Valhalla or Folkvanger. At Ragnarök, she will release an army of the dead from her realm. They will sail on the ship Naglfar, made from the fingernails of the deceased. The 3 children of Loki and Angrboda are 3 forces of destruction. The wolf destined to kill Odin, the serpent whose poison will bring down Thor, and Hel, who will march with an army of the dead. Together, they represent the approach of the end. The fate of each was sealed by the gods the moment they were denied freedom. But it was these very choices that made the prophecies inevitable. We already know that Loki is the father of monsters, but long before Ragnarök, he was a friend and ally of the Aesir. He lived among them, joined their councils, feasts, and battles. He was almost part of the family, Odin's sworn brother, Thor's frequent companion. And although the gods did not always trust him, time and again they turned to him for help. Loki was clever, cunning, inventive. In times of trouble, it was he who found a way out when the other gods were at a dead end. But the price of his help was almost always high. One of the first trials where Loki revealed both his wit and his dangerous unpredictability was the tale of how the wall around Asgard was built. That is where it all began. When Asgard was still being built after the war with the giants, the gods decided they needed a strong, unbreachable wall to guard against future threats. Soon, an unknown builder appeared and offered to construct the wall in just 1 winter. In return, he demanded an incredible price: the sun, the moon, and the hand of the beautiful goddess Freya. The gods hesitated, but Loki persuaded them to agree. After all, the deadline seemed nearly impossible, and the condition was that the builder had to complete the work alone, without any help. Yet it turned out the builder owned a mighty horse named Svadilfari. The horse did most of the labor, hauling massive stones with astonishing speed. When it became clear that the giant would actually finish the wall on time, the Aesir realized they had been deceived, and once again they turned to Loki. Now he had to fix everything. Loki devised a strange but effective plan. He transformed into a mare, came to Svadilfari at night, and lured him away. Without his powerful helper, the builder could not finish the wall, and the gods refused to pay. Enraged, the giant tried to claim his reward by force, but Thor struck him down with his hammer. Not long after, Loki vanished for a while. When he returned, he brought with him a foal. Not an ordinary one, but an 8-legged horse. This was Gleipnir, the fastest, strongest, and most magical steed in all the 9 worlds. He became the horse of Odin himself. Thus, one cunning trick of Loki saved Asgard, but left the gods with a bitter aftertaste. He had once again proven that he could be indispensable. Yet he also revealed how far he was willing to go. At times, Loki was not only a savior, but also a companion in the strangest of adventures. And though he was often blamed for misfortunes, without him, the Aesir sometimes could not prevail. One day, Loki played what seemed like a harmless prank. While Thor slept, he crept up to his wife, the beautiful goddess Sif, and cut off her hair. To Loki, it was just mockery, a joke, the whim of an eternal trickster. He gave no thought to the consequences, but for Thor, it was no laughing matter. Sif was a goddess of fertility, a symbol of growth and abundance. Her golden hair was not mere adornment, it was her strength, almost a sacred emblem. Its loss meant the loss of honor. And Thor, god of thunder, warrior, protector of Asgard, could not endure such humiliation. He seized Loki, holding back his fury, and gave him one chance: restore Sif's hair or die. Knowing he had gone too far, Loki set off for Svartalfheim, the underground realm of dwarves, the finest smiths of the 9 worlds. First, he turned to the famed masters, the sons of Ivaldi. They forged 3 wondrous gifts: new hair for Sif, spun from pure gold, which would take root and grow like real hair; Gungnir, Odin's spear, which never missed its mark; and Skidbladnir, a magical ship for Freyr, blessed with a constant fair wind, so skillfully wrought it could be folded like cloth and carried in a pocket. That should have been enough. But Loki was Loki. He decided to make a wager with another dwarf, Brokkr. "Can you create treasures greater than these?" Loki asked. "If so, the gods will honor your work. If not, you lose." Brokkr accepted the challenge and called upon his brother Sindri. The work began, but Loki had no intention of playing fair. He transformed into a fly and tried to sabotage the forging, biting, stinging, crawling over eyelids and hands. Yet the brothers produced 3 astonishing artifacts. Draupnir, a golden ring from which every 9th night 8 new rings would fall, a symbol of endless wealth. Gullinbursti, the golden boar, glowing in the darkest places and swifter than any steed. And at last, Mjolnir, the hammer, mighty enough to summon lightning and always returning to its master. But when Loki, as a fly, bit Brokkr on the eyelid, the hammer's handle came out too short. When Loki returned to Asgard and presented both sets of gifts, the gods held judgment. Despite its flaw, Mjolnir was deemed the most powerful and essential of them all. It became Thor's greatest weapon and the eternal symbol of Asgard's defense. As always, Loki was both the cause of trouble and its solution. He began with a foolish prank, endangered his own life, and in the end, brought the gods magical treasures that would guard them for ages to come. Yet with every such incident, the gods' trust in him grew thinner. Loki was playing with gods and with fate, and no one knew how far he was willing to go. When Asgard lost its greatest weapon of defense, Thor's hammer, it was once again Loki who knew what to do. One morning, Thor awoke to find Mjolnir gone. This was no mere weapon. Mjolnir was the very symbol of Asgard's protection, the hammer that could crush giants and keep order in Midgard. Without it, Asgard was more vulnerable than ever before. Thor flew into a rage and went straight to Loki. "Was it you?" he growled. "Not this time," Loki replied, "but I will find it. If you want to keep your head, trust me." Odin allowed Loki to borrow Freya's falcon cloak, which gave the power to fly between worlds. Donning it, Loki soared into the skies and headed for Jötunheim, the land of the giants. There he found Thrym, one of the mightiest of the Jotuns. The giant did not even bother to deny it. "Yes, I stole the hammer. I buried it 8 miles beneath the earth." "What do you want for it?" Loki asked. "Only one thing," said Thrym. "I want the goddess Freya for my wife." Loki returned to Asgard with the giant's demand. When Freya heard it, she was furious. Her eyes blazed, and she cast off her necklace Brisingamen in anger. "Never," she cried. "I will never be the bride of a giant." The gods held council. Something had to be done. Then Heimdall, guardian of the Bifrost and wise watcher, spoke. "What if Thor himself pretends to be Freya?" Thor was horrified. "Me? In a dress?" "You have no hammer," Loki reminded him. "And without your hammer, you have no argument." So it was decided. Thor was dressed in a long bridal gown, veiled and adorned with jewelry. Loki, of course, volunteered to accompany the bride in the guise of her maid. Together, they journeyed to Jötunheim. Thrym was overjoyed. At last, Freya had come to him. But soon suspicions arose. "Why does the bride eat so ravenously?" Thrym asked during the feast. "She devoured 8 whole salmon, a full ox, all the fish, and drank 3 casks of mead." "She fasted for 8 days," Loki answered quickly. So eager was she for the wedding. "And why do her eyes flash like lightning?" "From joy," said Loki. "She has not slept a wink, so full of happiness." Reassured, Thrym ordered Mjolnir to be brought forth and laid on the bride's lap as a token of union. That was exactly what Thor had been waiting for. The moment the hammer touched his hands, he tore off the veil, leapt to his feet, and unleashed his fury. First Thrym fell, then all his kin, servants, and guests. The feast turned into a massacre. Once again, Loki stood at the heart of a decisive event. He found the hammer, prevented Freya's forced marriage, and saved Asgard from peril. Yet, as always, it was done through trickery, risking trust, pushing the gods to the edge. Though Thor was victorious and the hammer returned. In Asgard, the truth was becoming clear. Every story involving Loki could end in salvation or in disaster. His jokes grew ever more dangerous, his role ever more unpredictable. The turning point in Loki's fate was the death of Baldr. Baldr was more than just a god. He embodied light, purity, and justice. He was loved by gods, humans, and even his enemies could not hate him. But he began to have dark dreams of his own death. His mother, Frigg, went to every creature and every object in the world and made them swear not to harm him. Stones, iron, beasts, diseases, and poisons all swore to spare Baldr. But one small plant had been overlooked: mistletoe. Frigg had thought it too young and harmless to bother with. When the gods learned that Baldr was now invulnerable, they turned it into a game. They would gather and throw spears, arrows, and stones at him, all of which bounced off his body, leaving him unharmed. It became a joyful spectacle, a symbol of Baldr's invincibility. But Loki did not share in the delight. The sight angered him. He disguised himself as a woman and went to Frigg to uncover the truth. That's how he learned about the mistletoe. From its branch, he crafted a spear or arrow and gave it to Hödur, Baldr's blind brother. Unaware of the trick, Hödur threw the weapon. The mistletoe pierced Baldr's body, and he fell dead. Silence fell over Asgard. The gods could not believe what had happened. This was the first death among the Aesir, and of their brightest god. The gods tried to undo the tragedy. They sent a messenger to the realm of Hel to plead for Baldr's return. Hel agreed. She would release him if every living creature in the world wept for him. And indeed, everyone, from gods and humans to stones and trees, shed tears. But when it came to a giantess in a cave, she refused. Her name was Thok, and many believed it was Loki in disguise. Because of her, Baldr remained in the realm of the dead. From that moment on, Loki ceased to be an ally of the gods. They decided to capture and punish him. Loki tried to flee. He turned into a fish, a bird, hid in the mountains. But the gods caught him. Then they turned to his sons by Sigyn. One was transformed into a wolf and tore his brother apart. The gods used his entrails to make unbreakable chains and bound Loki. They laid him on 3 massive stones in a cave. Above him, they suspended a serpent whose venom dripped constantly toward his face. Loki's wife, Sigyn, did not leave him. She sat beside him, holding a bowl to catch the drops. But when the bowl filled, she had to empty it, and in those moments, venom struck Loki's face. His convulsions shook the earth. The Norse believed this was the cause of earthquakes. This was a punishment meant to last until the end of time. But the myths say, one day his bonds will weaken. When Ragnarök comes, Loki will break free. He will lead the army of the dead from the realm of his daughter Hel, join the giants and monsters, and face the gods in their final battle. His last fight will be against Heimdall, the guardian of Asgard. They will slay each other, and with them will fall the fragile order the gods tried so desperately to preserve. The death of Baldr was the point of no return. Loki, once a companion of the gods, had now become their greatest enemy. His punishment became a symbol of the rift between Asgard and chaos. But as with his children, the gods' attempt to suppress the threat did not destroy it, only delayed it. Loki was a figure the Aesir hesitated to reject for a long time. He was Odin's ally and friend, Thor's companion, both helper and destroyer. But it was his children who became the embodiment of the end to come. Fenrir, the wolf, bound but not destroyed, destined to devour Odin. Jörmungandr, the serpent who encircles the world, Thor's eternal enemy, whose breath will become deadly poison. Hel, mistress of the dead, gathering an army of those the gods cast out. The death of Baldr proved that Loki was no longer just a trickster. He had crossed a line. His punishment turned him into a symbol of chaos the gods tried to restrain. But the prophecies are merciless. When Ragnarök comes, Loki will rise and lead those he himself brought into the world. The story of Loki and his children is a reminder that chaos cannot be destroyed once and for all. It can only be delayed. And that is why the next episode will be dedicated to them, the children of Loki, born of darkness and fate.
If you enjoyed this journey into Norse myth, subscribe for more stories of gods, giants, and ancient legends. The Old North still whispers.